Today, we're going to visit with two gentlemen who just moved to a place called Fountain Grove Lodge in Santa Rosa, California. Today, we have Chuck Finch and Ed Cambron, and I'll tell you a little bit about both of these gentlemen. Please welcome Chuck and Ed, the newest residents at Fountain Grove Lodge. They recently moved from the charming river towns of Bucks County, Pennsylvania, nestled between New York City and Philadelphia, and are currently settling in, awaiting new furniture, which some arrived yesterday. By the way, raise your hand, Chuck. Okay, and the other one is Ed. Okay. Ed is originally from Shepherdsville, Kentucky. Spent most of his career in arts management, including 38 years with the Philadelphia Orchestra and the Kimmel Center for the Performing Arts, where he served as chief operating officer. Chuck, a Ramsey, New Jersey native, right over the Tappan Zee, isn't it? There you go. A New Jersey native and NYU alum. Built a career in development for arts and healthcare institutions like the Curtis Institute and Bucks County Playhouse. The two met while volunteering at an AIDS service organization in Philly nearly 40 years ago and have been partners in crime ever since. They love cooking, entertaining, and enjoying life with their spirited Westie, Daisy, who currently is on the hunt for her ideal dog park. Did you find one for Daisy?
Still searching.
Okay. Ed is into art, sewing, gardening, and handicrafts, while Chuck dabbles in photography, music, and tracking cultural shifts. They've moved west in search of a meaningful and joyful third act, and we're lucky to have them adding their humor, creativity, and big hearts to this community.
Hey.
Welcome, gentlemen. Thank you so much for coming to the podcast. We really appreciate it. How are you today?
Good.
Thank you. Very well.
Very good. So we'll get into the story. What drew you to Fountain Grove Lodge as your new home, and what was your move-in experience? And again, let's also explain what Fountain Grove Lodge is to the LGBTQ community.
Sure, I'll jump in with that. We decided after the election, we had moved from our primary residence in Philadelphia, Center City, Philadelphia, to our weekend house in Bucks County, and really decided that with all the changes happening in the country and things kind of moving in directions of uncertainty, that it was the time for us to kind of think about what that third act in our life was going to be. So we decided to sell our house and to really look for a place where we could age gracefully. We don't have children. We wanted to be in a place where we felt safe and could have the support we needed as we grew older. We wanted a place that was not necessarily exclusively LGBTQ, but very, very supportive of the LGBTQ community. One that was in a great location in terms of weather. We didn't want to be, in the humid heat of Florida, for example. And we wanted a place that we felt kind of matched our sensibilities, that was nice and felt comfortable. So we looked around the country and actually found Fountain Grove Lodge in some searching. We visited about a year ago. I have a niece who lives in San Francisco. We came and visited and came up and took a look. And Fountain Grove Lodge really hit all those marks for us. It was just the moment we walked in, there was a sense of, it felt like home. And it had that outwardly, they use the word allies here, not gay friendly. It's LGBTQ and allies. And I think that kind of says something that's a little more embracing than just being friendly and welcoming.
And all of those groups are represented here.
Right.
Every single group is represented. So it's great.
It's not a huge facility. There are about 100 residents. It's a CCRC, so you kind of buy into a unit. You have a monthly fee. With that comes meals in the dining room, which is phenomenal. Food is a big deal here. It's got to be good, and it is. it comes with a lot of activities. There, you can get a garden parcel and do gardening if you want. You can play in the art studio. There's a fully equipped gym. There are medics available if you have some additional needs or want additional support physically.
We have a bocce team.
We have a bocce team. We're getting a new bocce court. They're installing it now. So it's really a community. You're kind of buying into a community. It's like almost being in a very friendly apartment building where you really get to know a lot of people that live with you in that building. But these people are really here as not just residents, but as their home. So you get to know them as a community, and community is what makes it.
And I think that maybe what some of your viewers who are starting to look at these sorts of options might not know about a CCRC is that it's not a nursing home. This is a predominantly independent living building. There are people with off-road vehicles. There are people with RVs. There are people right now who are in Spain looking through castles. People are traveling. People all have their cars. This is not the waiting room for the next step.
Right.
This is actually, we have a real third act. We have another piece of our life that's just begun. And it's been 6 months, but we're loving it,
right.
Actually.
And you let go of the responsibilities of maintaining at your own house and dealing with all of the requirements of that. And you trade all of that kind of stress for, hey, if we need something done, we just call. And it's taken care of.
So for our listeners, in the CCRC, so you start off as independent living, most of the people are. Mm-hmm. And then if you do need it, you can go to assisted living, correct? Which is on premise?
There are med techs throughout, the building, and there's a wide range of ages. Ed is 64. I'm 69. There's a wonderful woman who's turning 100 in the next several weeks, who's at lunch, at dinner, doing activities. But you age in place, and there's a sense of safety and a sense of community, not only among the residents, but the people who are on staff who can help you at the times that may occur. We both had parents that we took care of for many years. Mm-hmm. And I think that we were far more sensitive to this idea that people keep saying 2 more years, 3 more years, 5 more years until I make a change where I'm living in an environment that can be more supportive than my own home. Learned the hard way by helping with my parents, and we're in a case we don't have kids. So making a choice like this was something that we made for each other in a sense, knowing that maybe one or the other of us would ultimately have more needs. And I think that we made a very wise decision.
Yeah. CCRC provides support. If you are, aging to the point where you need some assistance in mobility or bathing or managing medications or that kind of support, it's here for you. If you're in a situation where you need ongoing nursing care and injections and that kind, it's not that kind of institution.
But you do live in place, and many people live their entire lives here, and through the support externally and internally through the med techs will end their lives here. You don't have to end up being, shuttled to some kind of, hospital room for weeks. Right. So to me, it's a best case scenario.
And the nice thing is you don't see it. It's not it's like, I don't know how they do it, but you don't really see those actions.
It's all very discreet.
It's very discreet.
But it's also because the majority of the population is independent.
Right.
The people who are very close to moving to their next world, whatever that is, that's the minority of the population. But the turnover is always going to be there because that's the nature of a place where you age in place. And to be honest, Mark, there's something about being in an environment where the life cycle happens among your residents and your neighbors and your friends is actually a healthy thing. I know that we live in our neighborhoods where you suddenly say, oh, guess what? The guy down the road died 2 months ago.
You don't know your neighbors
all the time. Right. And here, there's a commitment to being engaged with others and to being supportive of others. And many of the people who we're enjoying the most here so far are probably 20 years older than we are. And
Yeah,
we're still
and
spending lunch and dinner with these folks a lot and having a blast. So ageism is something that I think has always been in nature in the LGBT, community. And I think that that's something that we've never experienced ourselves. We've always had friends older than ourselves, younger than ourselves. This kind of breaking groups of people into certain ages as you retire, you become one community and you realize that. And it's a wonderful lesson to be learned, and it helps you with the next stage of your life, I think.
yeah, and I think places like CCRCs can extend someone's life.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
No question.
even if somebody is immobile and they're in this community with everyone and they're still, getting around, talking to people and communicating and laughing and it does extend your life.
I
You
think
have to keep on laughing.
the social interaction it's something that we wanted. We wanted to go to the next stage of really being with people, not by ourselves.
Mhm.
And that's been the greatest joy so far, is that you're more social. You just are.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see it. So what were your first impressions when you arrived at the community just for the first time on your tour? Were you surprised? Were you like, oh, wow, this
I think
place
that
could.
the first thing that struck us was how beautifully designed it was, not only as architecture, but also how it incorporated all of the pieces of what you do in a given day and found a way to build those structures within this facility. There's a main building and a dining area and a living rooms and libraries, actual checkout library that you can just go sit in. And then of course there's a fireplace in there to read in your comfy chair in the middle of the library. There are beautiful swimming pool, and also it's very calm and very quiet, but there are people around and there's stuff always going on. So it's this balance of you do have privacy. We're in a unit where we have a great deal of privacy, and we love that piece of it. But at the same time, you walk out your door and you go to lunch and there are 30 people chattering away and people joining each other for meals and stopping by each other's tables. And it's a really kind of fun and interesting environment that we took to immediately. We left the tour the first day and had made the decision to put it down a deposit to be part of the group that
The waiting list.
the waiting list.
Wow, that was
All of
quick.
these places have significant waiting lists, over
Did-
100 right now.
Yeah, and the same one in Arizona as well.
Yes.
It's like a year waiting list.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, okay, and let's talk a little bit about Santa Rosa itself. How's the climate there?
Perfect. No, I'm serious. I really love it. It's, it gets cool at night and in the morning.
Love
It'll get down to maybe 55 degrees, late at night and in the morning. And then it'll get to a high of about 75, 80. There's almost no humidity. It rarely rains. It could rain a little bit more for the garden, but it rarely rains. And it's just lovely. I mean, I love waking up in the morning and being cool, and then it slowly warms up as the day moves along.
For all of your folks who tune in and live in areas with high humidity and high heat, in the mid-Atlantic during the summer where you'd have 102-degree days with 70% humidity.
Oh, yeah.
And you'd wake up in the morning, it would be 84 degrees and terribly humid. Well, here you wake up and it's 53 degrees and, it gets
I
up
need
to
my shawl.
75 by lunch, and
Yeah.
the locals are complaining about how hot it is when it's 80 degrees with no humidity, and we just laugh at them because it's just ideal.
You do have to think about it, though. I remember it took me a long time to realize that if I'm going to walk the dog in the morning, I should put a little jacket on or a heavier shirt.
See, right now in Phoenix, summertime, we're waking up. So at 5:30, I go out the door to do my exercise, my little 4-mile walk,
I
and
do one too. Yeah.
it's 90 degrees.
Oh
in
God.
night or
Yeah.
in the 90s. This week it was like 93 one or 2 days, which is quite hot.
That's
Maybe
hot.
very little humidity, but and during the day it gets up to 118.
Oh yeah.
So
Well,
that's
not to upset you too much, but my walk this morning at 7:30, it was 54 degrees.
I love it.
And by the time of the 4 mile walk, which I do as well, I do a 4 mile walk. And when we got back, it was 63.
Yeah, kind of perfect.
Yeah,
And Santa
it really is
Rosa,
nice.
you wanted to know about Santa Rosa as well. Santa Rosa is a full service community, hospitals, big box stores, an old downtown with some really terrific restaurants. And the Charles M. Schultz Museum is here because he was a Santa Rosa guy. And he
Wow.
has a gorgeous museum, charming and fun, that has actually a full hockey court for people to skate on because he was a big fan of skating. And that's attached to the museum. And it's also a jumping off point for the rest of Sonoma County, Bodega Bay on the coast, Napa
Oh,
in
the
the other
birds,
direction.
Bodega
Pardon?
Bay, the
Yeah, the
birds.
birds.
The birds.
Tippy
Yeah.
Hedron.
We had to go there. That was one of the first places we visited. Just
We
had
went
to
we
see
went
it.
to the restaurant where they were, watching and arguing about what was going to be happening next in the movie. And they had rebuilt it so it didn't look the same, but you could see the marina and you could see the area where the movie took place. It was a little bit creepy, actually, but it was fun.
Is it north of San Francisco?
Yes, by about
Yeah.
an hour. It's an hour drive from San Francisco.
It's about 50 miles. Yeah.
Okay, because the weather sort of reminds me also of Sacramento, because Sacramento is
Yeah.
like the
Sacramento is
halfway.
just a little north of us.
And San Francisco,
North
of
and
course,
east.
is a lot cooler. We're just north enough, and it changes quickly enough once you move inland a bit from the bay.
Right.
And so when you go to San Francisco, you could watch the temperature drop in your car on the dashboard
I
and see
bet.
it all come down, and then it gets
And the fog.
hazy, comes in, the fog comes in, but it's nice to have a big city that's accessible like that.
And what I loved about that weather in Sacramento is it could get hot in this, and during the daytime, but there's a delta breeze that comes
Yes.
through
Yeah.
at night, and it
Every
cools everything down every night. So it could be 104, and at night, you go out to dinner and it's like 75. So
It's true.
so it's really sweet. Okay. All right. Do you have any wildfires in the area? Is that the type of area you're
Well,
in?
we've been here for what, 9 months?
7 months, 6
And
months.
there's when you come up the hill, there's a sign that has like a fire status, and it has like moderate, mild. It just went to moderate, so I don't know what that means. But we've never had any fires there. I think there were fires here, 5 or 6 years
In
ago.
2017, there was a big fire that burned a whole lot of the Santa Rosa area, but it did not impact this facility, which was fantastic. And the rebuilding process has been pretty significant and surprisingly quick. And on top of that, the state and the counties have been implementing more and more measures to make sure that this sort of fire becomes something much less common. So I'm not particularly concerned about that part of it, but we're in an area that gets dry and there will be fires. It's a question of controlling
Yeah,
them.
I mean, my view is no matter where you live, there's something. Hurricanes, floods.
There's no
tornadoes.
perfect. Nothing's perfect. There's no
Hey, we
utopia.
wanted an adventure.
I'm trying to find it. But
We wanted an adventure, and if there's an earthquake, I would say that goes under the category of an adventure.
yeah, sure.
It's part of the deal.
It is. Just like a hurricane in Florida,
That's
Yeah.
right.
which I gave up myself. But
Yes, exactly.
anyway, so let's talk about the cost of living and the buy-in expense. Can you break down, and I don't mean, specifics, but the typical monthly rental fee, what that is, and what is that buy-in fee, and what does that include?
Well, I'll just start a little bit. The sizes of units determine the buy-in and the monthly rental, and if it's a single or an additional person. So there are studios, 1 bedrooms, two bedrooms and den. There are bungalows off from the main building that have their own garages and are basically their own residences for people who want to have them really independent and not living under the roof with other residents. So there's a broad scale, and that broad scale makes it a case where there's a broad scale for the pricing of the entry fees. So those entry fees run from a couple $100,000 for smaller units to upwards of $1 million for the larger units. And then your monthly fee is would start, I guess, in the $4,000 to $5,000 range and go up to the $8,000-9,000 range. So in our case, and so obviously this is something that you save for or have assets that come from the sale of properties, or you've had a 401k. If you were lucky enough, you had a pension plan that nobody has anymore, but some of us still had some of that.
Right.
You combine all of that, and we found that once we added up all of our expenses back in Bucks County, Pennsylvania, and shifted them over to here, that there wasn't a huge difference in our costs. You're just paying one check for everything. Everything's included. The internet's included. The food's included. Your utilities are included. All you're paying is your rent. Right?
Is all the food included, or do you get an allowance?
It's an allowance.
It's an allowance. They have
Points.
Yeah, it's a point system. So each individual person gets, I think it's 495 points or something like
which
that.
is each point's $1.
Yeah, basically.
So for every month, you get a little under $1,000 to spend. But a 3-course dinner
Just like 23
is $23. So
It's a difference.
The meals here are things like rack of lamb, filet mignon. A vegetarian entree every single night is a special, along with the special entree, regular seafood or fish or meat. The food is significantly above average. I would say that it is akin to a 3-star restaurant. That's kind of the style of it. You can get a burrata salad. You can get caprese this and wonderful desserts. It's above average.
But the number of points you get, you could eat every day for the month. It wouldn't necessarily cover a hot breakfast, lunch, and dinner every day, but we rarely run out of points. It kind of works out. Continental breakfast every. We were talking about meals. We've been able to have all of the meals that we really want with the points we have. There's a continental breakfast every morning. It's one of our favorite meals because we get to meet with a kind of regular group of people that we've gotten to know. That doesn't take any points, continental breakfast. And, we have dinner almost every night in the dining room and occasionally some lunches, but it covers most of what we need.
And like any family, like anybody living in a completely independent house or condo, we go out to dinner a couple times a week. We went out to dinner Saturday night. We're going out to dinner tonight with another couple as well. So, it's just the nature is they've figured out what their resident base uses, and they've kept it within that marginal of error that you pretty much can get through the month without having to expend any more money. And if you do use up all your points, and an example of that happening is, say you have a party and you invite 8 friends and you pay for them all because that's how it works. Well, you're going to use up a whole bunch of points that way. And so if you go over 50 points or 100 points, well, it may be $100, but you were only paying $23 for a 3-course meal. That was the equivalent of a restaurant meal. So you're still in better shape than you would be if you were out in the open market doing this.
And I asked my other friends that live in the CCRC, I said, what's your refrigerator look like? And they said, it's only leftovers from all the meals that we have. There's nothing else.
Absolutely true. You still have to throw out stuff every few weeks, which is all the stuff you thought you were going to eat that you brought back.
And we came here saying, oh my God, we both cook so much and we love to cook, and it's such a huge part of our lives that we're never going to be using that dining room. And we have not cooked at all since we've been here. And I can't believe we don't miss it, but we really don't.
Do you go food shopping at all? or just toilet paper shopping and paper towels.
It's pretty
Paper-
much toilet paper, Diet Coke,
Pinot Grigio,
wine,
Very important.
very important.
but not much grocery shopping. Dog food.
Dog food.
Okay.
The dog actually has the most filled cabinet space of all of the family at the moment.
I believe it. I believe it. Okay. So that's interesting. And yes, what they sent us home with a packet too, and they give you a sheet of all the categories that you currently spend money
Yeah.
in during the month and what is covered, in their monthly plan. And so it's pretty eye-opening because when you do add everything up, your real estate taxes during the year and your electricity, your gas, your everything, shopping, utilities, blah, blah, blah. It comes out pretty much almost the same.
It does. It really does.
And
Yes.
it's kind of eye-opening
Yeah.
because you're like, oh, I spend that much?
Yeah, that's true.
Well, at the end of the year, when we just print everything out about our spending for the year for tax stuff, it's always, how on earth did we spend that much money? Where on earth how did this wait a minute, hold it.
Right.
What's going on?
Yeah.
True.
And it's the nature of life. I mean, it's expensive being an American.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. So you don't pay any utilities. So everything is included, right?
Yeah.
You even get cable, like basic cable?
Yes. Yes.
Free cable,
Wi-Fi.
internet. We have a beautiful
Oh, we
gas
get-
fireplace.
We
that
get
you don't pay the gas bill. And
cleaning service once a week. They come in and clean our apartment,
a real cleaning.
clean our sheets, change our beds.
Once a week?
Once a week.
And
Yeah.
once a year, they do a deep cleaning where
cleaning.
they remove the appliances and clean under all of those and do deep cleaning of the bathrooms and all those
Yeah.
spaces. Keep in mind, we're renting, and this facility is owned by a company that has an investment in making sure that these places stay in
Nice.
tip-top
Yeah.
shape.
Right.
So, it's a symbiotic relationship you're having with management, but you both benefit.
It took us a little bit of adjustment because Chuck was like, "No, we'll do our own laundry, like towels and sheets and all that stuff."
Mm-mm.
No,
Mm-mm. Why? If they're going to do it,
why are we going to do that?
put it in a bag outside your door.
They just come in. They know where it is. That's where we store our towels and sheets. They go get them, make the beds, clean the old sheets.
We
put 'em
literally
away.
just got a call from the front desk saying that all of our dry cleaning had just gotten back. So, it's like that.
They do dry cleaning too?
No. we
Oh,
pay
okay.
for
You
it.
send it out.
But they send it out for us and they manage it all, which is, again, they
They
change the light bulbs in your
see,
apartment. When the
that's
bulbs are out.
important because I don't want to be climbing and they don't want you to be climbing.
They don't either.
The maintenance stuff is great. We just, if we decide, we want to move something, we just call them and they come up and lift things.
And we're diehard DIYers. I mean, we really have a history. We had rental apartments that we would redo ourselves, and we laid hardwood floors ourselves, and we put up kitchen cabinets ourselves, and
Wow.
all that kind of stuff. In the midst of having our careers, we also did crazy stuff like that, and thought we would miss that. Well, guess what? We don't miss that either.
It's nice to just call.
Now,
You think you're having fun, but sometimes you're not.
You're
when
not.
You're doing all those sorts
You
of
think
extra
you are.
activities. You convince yourself you're having fun.
right. Yeah. Is there an escape clause? So let's
Yeah.
say the first year and the 6th month, you're like, you know what? It's really not for
Yeah,
me.
there's 90 days. You're out with no obligations. You get everything back.
And a total refund.
So there's a 90-day out clause. And then depending on how you come in, if you are doing the buy-in fee and you're doing the lesser amount, it is amortized over 5 years. So if you leave 2 years in, or 2.5, let's say, you're going to get half of that back when you leave.
Mhm.
If you put in a larger sum as a buy-in, when you leave, you could get 90% of that back. It all depends on how much you put down for the buy-in at the beginning.
And the motivation behind these different amounts, we don't have children, we don't have an estate that we need to think about other people we need to take care of, other than philanthropic decisions about requests.
Which dog
gets it?
That dog gets lobster every night. But what it does do is it allows you the option of putting 90% down that's refundable. So your estate, your children, if you have children, or your other family members, will have that money come back to them. In our case, we did the less expensive 5-year program where it's amortized and goes after 5 years. Now, as you know, Mark, we moved into a smaller unit to simply get in here, and have moved just in the past week into a larger unit, which happened after only 4 or 5 months. So we took all of the equity, was still pretty much left upstairs, and we moved all of that to the extra added fee of being in the larger unit. So there are a lot of ways in which you can navigate this financially, which is also, I think, a good thing.
Okay, and it also matters where you're moving, how big of a space you're moving to.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
That all ties in.
Square footages are based, it's a little bit the way any condo would be, or, any housing development would be, where the 3 bedrooms are this price, the 2 bedrooms are that price, the this price.
There are a couple, I think there are, 2 or 3 like large studio places.
Yes.
There are a couple small. Most of the units at Fountain Grove Lodge are very ample, larger units, but there are a couple small spaces to it.
Mm-hmm.
Got it. Okay. Were there any surprise charges for any other kind of amenities, or was that pretty much included?
I don't think there were. No, we really, by the time you have filled out all of the forms and information that they need for you to become a resident, that is laid out so explicitly. Everything that you're going to be asked for financially or lifestyle wise is taken care of before the move, and you're pretty well aware of what that's going to be.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. There really weren't any surprise charges. I don't think there were any charges.
No.
Yeah.
Okay. And
in fact, I would say that in our case, we were surprised how accommodating and how much work the staff will do as part of your entry contract, because, every ceiling fan was hung, the lights were all changed.
They help you hang artwork.
They help you put up your TV for you. They do all those things that you would have to kind of.
Yeah, they don't want you to get hurt doing it.
Of course. So, that's definitely an element, but that's again the symbiotic relationship between the resident and a company. It benefits both, which is kind of interesting.
The only thing I was surprised with in the move-in process is they do want a lot of information about your health. I mean, I know the paperwork we had to fill out, we sent to our doctor. I was almost embarrassed to send it to him. I thought, he's going to spend an hour filling this form out and ask all kinds of questions, but they really want to know what state you're in.
Right, because it may not be worth to them.
Well, I don't know what happens if it comes back and.
Did you have to take a cognitive test?
Yeah.
Yes,
we did.
Yeah.
Spell world backwards.
I think one of the reasons that this happens at all CCRCs is it's not so much about qualifying you to be here. It's about identifying where you are in your life
stage,
and how much support you will ultimately need, maybe in the nearer than the future than down the line. And so I think that helps them plan accordingly as the population shifts and changes, so they know, this individual is very independent.
Right.
We're both going to be 20 years from now still probably driving around Santa Rosa bothering people, and so. But on the other hand, they need to know people who have pre-existing conditions that they will have to be working with as med techs, because there are people who can't get around, who are their medications brought to them multiple times a day. They have meals brought to their apartments. That's that's the living in place part. That's where you are safe, regardless how little you have in terms of ambulatory skills or the capability to maneuver yourself in a facility.
The other thing that I realized is, because you kind of think about it as a certainty, right? But even in our short time, I've had a couple health issues. And if and there are other residents we know that have a health issue, they go to the hospital, they have a surgery. A friend of ours just had, a hip replaced. Well, when they come back, there's people here to help with that, to help get that person around, to help that person bathe temporarily while they're recovering from an issue. So it's also, and that happens more at our age. And then you run into more health issues where there could be a couple of weeks where you're kind of out of commission a little bit.
So, and you say something like this happens, you have the regular rehab through your healthcare facility that you use, whoever your insurance is with. But there are also health people here. There's a staff of people who do exercise classes and yoga and do rehab. And there's an acupuncturist and there's a massage therapist. There's a chiropractor that comes in. So there's all kinds of assistance on site, as well as whatever you use through your health plan.
And that's really important. We were talking about this in a previous conversation with some other gentleman where they had a surgery, and my husband had a surgery also, which required a catheter put in.
Yeah.
We don't know from catheters from our life.
Yeah,
we're not familiar with that. And just the thought of having it in for a week is mind-boggling. And you don't know, oh, I see blood. Am I dying? You don't know. But the guys that lived in the CCRC, they came out of surgery and they said, you know what? I don't feel comfortable living in my independent care home. I'm going to go to their assisted living for a night or 2 nights. And so they could observe and see if, because I'm still bleeding, maybe they could just assure me whether it's fine. And that was a big thing. And that is a big thing, because we were on pins and needles.
And a facility like this has, a med tech and a nurse on site 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
And what we haven't brought up is there's also a memory care facility down the road a bit that's affiliated, that's part of this facility. And if you do get later in life to a memory care issue, if one of the partners, if yourself, somebody, you can transfer into that environment. But it's, again, because
that's when you're totally not independent living, when you're in that situation.
But the beauty of that too is that I think I talked earlier about how you are with a group of residents who are aging in place, so you get to see the life cycle. And one of the really wonderful things about here is that us independent residents volunteer at the memory care facility. That's a weekly kind of activity that happens, and it's about becoming more aware of the sensitivity of life and the sensitivities of individuals.
Indeed.
And I think it broadens your vision of what life is. Yeah. It deepens your appreciation for, who we are.
Waking up every day.
Yeah, exactly.
And there are friends we have here, residents who are couples where one of the two really needs a lot of support in memory care. They have serious dementia and Alzheimer's, and the other partner lives here in the independent living. So there's some of that happens here too.
So I was going to ask you, so if you're a couple and one needs memory care, does one go to the memory care facility and yet the other one stays in the independent living for the same amount?
Yes, but also keep in mind that memory care issues are on a spectrum. So there are people who are at the beginning of having memory care issues who are still living independently with their spouse or even on their own, and can navigate and negotiate with some small assistance in the regular environment. And it's only when the cognition becomes so
dangerous,
damaged, that there's no possible way. So, you have people at at many people living within the main facility at many different levels of ability, ambulatory ability, mental facility, cognitive skills. There's a wide range, and it's a terrifically positive thing for, I think, for everybody. Those who are completely able and those who are not completely able are working together and interacting and friends with one another. And I think that's something that wasn't part of our regular day-to-day life when we were both working in busy careers, and basically just, unless it was a family member or a close friend who had had something, you didn't necessarily surround yourself with people who had other needs.
Right.
And here you were mixed with people who have some needs and those who are completely independent. And, we all help one another. And sometimes we're helped emotionally by some of the neediest people here. So there you have it. It works both ways.
Isn't it something that people have empathy?
I know.
Well, it's actually one of the beauties of this facility. I know that there are many places that may not be as welcoming.
It's
but
true.
It is a tenet of this environment, of this particular place, that's what it is.
True.
Let me ask. So Fountain Grove Lodge is a public company owned by, I believe, Oakmont?
Oakmont is the management company.
Okay.
It's actually owned by a company called Well Tower.
Okay. And
Well Tower is an international
and
company.
it's publicly traded.
It's a public company.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you know what would be the difference between a public company, CCRC, and a nonprofit?
Well, the nonprofits usually come with a guarantee that no matter what, you will stay in that facility.
Right, they do.
That's the difference. I mean, the cost can be similar. It's really a question of that. If somebody ran out of money,
Right.
what would happen? A nonprofit is going to be a much better situation for somebody that is in that situation than a for-profit company.
So would they kick you out if you ran out of money?
They would work with you to try to probably figure out a solution, smaller units, that kind of thing. But ultimately, yeah,
Money talks.
It's a transactional environment.
Yeah. Gotcha.
We were landlords.
I understand.
The other thing with the nonprofits is they're usually affiliated with the Quakers, have a number of them, and those are very gay friendly. CCRCs, if you're looking for a not-for-profit, check that out. Look for Quaker CCRCs. The Episcopalians have a number of nonprofit CCRCs as well. They also seem to be welcoming of diverse communities. But that, for us, it was important to have the guarantee that the environment would be supportive.
Oh.
We left the purplest county in the purplest state 2 days after an election that didn't go our way, and it was critical for us to not be in a divisive environment.
Right. And we wanted someplace, to be honest, it was very nice. You do at the end of the day get a little bit of what you pay for. I mean, there's a reality there. So,
and we appreciate and understand that many people couldn't manage this, financially. My brother, who just left Florida because he was also fed up, he's taken a different path of just renting an apartment someplace. He couldn't swing something like this, and many people couldn't.
Right.
But if it's as an option for people who can, I think that most people would be shockingly impressed by what they would find if they came and visited.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the LGBTQ community there and social life. It's pretty easy to find other LGBTQ people because mostly everybody is. Now, unless they're allies, because you can't really discriminate and say,
sure.
But most of the people, I would assume, that buy into a CCRC that's labeled as LGBTQ is going to be LGBTQ. So,
Yeah. Not all of them. I think it's probably 70% LGBTQ and 30, 40. It changes, at times.
And we've found that among the allies, as they're called, so many of them have gay children.
right.
They have gay siblings. They've been in a work environment where this was not an issue for them, or a social environment.
Where they're very artsy, very creative types.
And all those cliches that we always talk about in terms of personality traits that are part of our world, these allies tend to share those and are totally cool with us.
I find
we're totally cool with them.
They're interesting people. They've done interesting things in their lives. They're just interesting.
And I think so many of us, Mark, have always had lots of straight friends. I mean, I think that one of the things that happened is that the 20th century ended and the 21st century began, and all of this technology happened, is that, people were no longer siloed in the way that they had previously been siloed.
Right.
You can see that by the gay bar kind of going out of fashion and not being the be all end all meetup place for people. But yes, we have a very rich social life among our gay friends, our lesbian friends, the men. We have every 2 months we have a dinner where we all get together as a group. There are 30 of us, and there's also in Santa Rosa a group called the Golden Guys.
Yeah.
And they get invited here for parties. So we have people who aren't even part of FGL who kind of can be invited by the residents. And we'll be having a pool party next month with a double paella dinner that one of the couples is doing, and they're inviting a bunch of people, and we'll be doing one in September.
For Gay Pride Month, there was a huge party. There were 600 people invited. It was
wow.
The place was just mobbed. It was wonderful.
Wow.
And we marched in the Pride Parade in Santa Rosa, and we're not parade guys, but we did it, and we did it for the first time. We're marchers and not just observers. And so we've been activated a little bit in this process as well.
So living there, have you made true friends within?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like people that you think you could rely on and they could rely on you to help out and do stuff?
We already have been.
Sure.
So
we made good friends right off the bat with a guy that I love to draw, and I love figure drawing. And he goes into San Francisco to do gay men's sketch. And I went in with him. They've become great friends. I mean, lots in common. We, both kind of are committed to having the art environment here be really active. So we do a lot of stuff in the art studio. We just did a huge art exhibition of resident work. So we've become really good friends with people especially people we have something in common with.
Yeah.
Chuck's made some great friends around music. So
and you'll find too is that because it's so socially progressive, you're always receiving an invitation. Every emails every day are you free for dinner on Thursday? Are you free for dinner on Saturday? Would you like to go out for brunch on Sunday? I mean, it's you can run, but you can't hide, in a sense that the residents and the collective community make sure that no one is neglected and that everyone is pulled into that world. But at the same time, you have the privacy of your beautiful apartment, and it's quiet, and if you want to do not disturb, you're not disturbed.
That's great. I mean, you have two comforts. So you have the comfort of aging in place and having the healthcare that you actually need. Plus, you have a community, the gay community, LGBTQ community, which is also very important.
Yep.
Especially, it's important to, people like me. I think community is very important, especially as we get older. So
I agree.
Agreed.
That's excellent. You said you have cars. So do you have two cars?
We have one.
You have one. Okay. And is there any other, does the facility have a bus that goes into Santa Rosa?
Oh, sure. There's a parking lot. You get a parking space with your unit. We have an electric car. We plug it in. There's a bus that does all kinds of excursions that will, they do special lunch visits to various, museums or historic places or farmers markets. There's always excursions all the time. They're regular scheduled trips to Trader Joe's and grocery stores and all that kind of stuff.
Do you have a Costco?
And then if you need some transportation, like to go to the doctor, there's a driver and they have a car that will just drive you there.
Wow. And that's all included?
Yep.
Yes.
Wow.
Yep.
Do you have a Costco nearby?
Yes.
Yeah,
And do you have a bus that goes to Costco?
Yes.
it does. It goes to where does it go? Costco, Trader Joe's,
Whole Foods,
Whole Foods.
Trader Joe's.
Yeah,
Very
goes
convenient.
to the big names.
Very convenient. Yeah, so for people that have trouble with mobility issue, they have
Oh
mobility
yeah, yeah,
issues, or if they
Sure.
don't drive, they could at least get around as well.
sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very, very
That's right.
important. Excellent. Okay. How about, is there any place to walk on the facility or around the facility? You walk 4 miles.
Yes. Fountain Grove is the northwest quadrant of Santa Rosa, and it's the hilliest, twistiest area of Santa Rosa, and the walks are challenging. Let's just say that one of my walks is going up Sky Farm Drive. Well, imagine what Sky Farm Drive is like. It's a highly elevated walk up like this for about 4 miles, and we have 5 or 6 different walks that we can take from just walking outside of our building. You don't have to drive to a place to do a walk. You can leave this facility because it's in the quieter. It's residential, but with lots of nature around.
There's a winery across the street with amazing outdoor sculpture gardens, so you can walk over to the winery. And
Wow.
The
along
owner of the
there.
winery was very involved with Burning Man, so it's a whole lot of the Burning Man artwork, big sculpture, the oversized stuff has been moved here after those Burning Man weeks.
But you can walk around the actual like there's a whole garden area where you can get a parcel and do your gardening. Just to walk through the gardens and around the outdoor areas, the Fountain Grove is beautifully landscaped, so there's a lot of little places to walk. I'm not walking 4 miles a day. I'm not a walker like Chuck is. I more like to walk the dog out by the garden, then walk the dog through the landscaped areas, and that's my walk.
Cool. Cool. What kind of amenities do they have? Like, do they have a movie theater? You mentioned they have a pool.
Yeah, they have a huge pool.
Pool, hot
I
tub.
swim in a hot tub.
Is it
They
outdoor
have
or
a
indoor?
Yes,
outdoor, but it's open year round, even during the cooler days in the winter. It stays at 85 degrees. There is a movie theater that has every night there's a movie. There's a committee of residents who choose a wide variety of options, new movies, older movies, LGBT themed films, some documentaries. Around Oscar time, they'll show all the short subjects that are nominated, since those are the sorts of things you never really end up seeing unless you have a way to do that. So the movie thing is great. There's also a great hall with a grand piano, and there are a lot of people here who are deeply engaged in music. And there's a very good symphony orchestra in Santa Rosa, and the relationships that some of the residents have with the orchestra and have produced a series of chamber concerts and small concerts here where people can actually simply on a Friday afternoon at 3 o'clock go up and you have 100 people seeing, a cellist and a violinist and a brass player doing a whole series of pieces. And it's marvelous.
That's awesome.
And every Wednesday day drinking is something that day drinking, I must say, is something that is utilized in this facility, which we like a great deal. There's a wine Wednesday every Wednesday at 4 o'clock, and everybody goes to the great living room, which is gorgeous. And they have jazz pianists and singers. They have all kinds of stuff, and you have hors d'oeuvres they put out all across the tables.
Yeah, and a lot of wine.
And lots of wine, every possible type that you could. Well,
You're in wine country,
basically. Yeah. But it's a wonderful way. And then on Saturdays, there's a Saturday afternoon get together as well.
There's a tavern that you can opt to have dinner in instead of the dining room. And there's a cocktail bar, and they can order whatever drink you drink. So there's a full bar.
And then a huge dining room.
That's not included in your food points.
No. Well, the liquor is included if it's a function of Fountain Grove, like Wine Wednesday, Saturday.
All of that's taken care of.
Any special event.
Oh, that's all free?
That's all. That's all free.
And there's usually a special party of some kind. I mean, they'll invent a reason to have a party, but there's something.
Yeah, 3 or 4 times a week, there's a something.
And then every month or two, there's a real get together. Celebrating whatever holidays around what's going on.
There's a wine cellar that you can store wine if you're a wine collector. We're not, and you can have events in there. But there's a beautiful little wine cellar that's perfectly outfitted. What else is here? There's a beauty salon. There's a hairstylist that comes in once a week. You can make an appointment. There you go. Or
Mark, they did a great job.
They have that on site. There's a billiard room. There's a card and game room that has special tables for folks that like to play. There are a lot of card players here. Bridge, hearts.
Backgammon is today. There's a big backgammon group. They all bring their boards and everybody, competes against one another.
There's an art room.
A bocce court.
We
bocce.
And you're pet friendly because you have a dog.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, super pet friendly.
There are 23 dogs here.
Wow. And do they have little grassy areas for them?
Oh, yes, sure. They have dog walking areas. Absolutely.
With the little poopy
the little
bags.
Poopy bags. Yes, we do.
And everybody sticks to the rules, which is a great thing.
It is. Wow. Sounds like they thought of everything. And how many restaurants do you have? You just have the one dining room and a tavern?
The main dining room and the tavern. So there are a couple other dining areas where if there's a special event, if you're having a gathering, like once a month, there's a group of just gay guys just the gay guys.
Just the gays.
Get together in a special dining room and just have dinner together.
And just chew the fat. And then there's a whole lesbian group that
the lesbians do that.
They started it, actually.
They started
it. We were like, hey, what about us? We want ours.
Yeah.
So that happens. There's also, as in many of these places, when you come in the entryway, on one side of the entry area is a bistro, and that's where there's coffee 24 hours a day, lemon water.
Cookies are most important.
They bake the cookies there to have the smell go through the place, so you have to force yourself to go downstairs and it has some cookies. And fresh fruits and chips and all that kind of stuff is always available, so you can always get a snack, even if it's not part of the restaurant setup.
Sounds like my type of place. So you said, you go on museum visits and arts and cultural outings. Boy, it's pretty much, they've covered it.
I would say that half the population here are subscribers to the Santa Rosa Symphony.
Yeah.
And a number of people go into San Francisco in groups to go to things there, restaurants, theater.
Do they have buses that take you to San Francisco?
There have been a couple of excursions to San Francisco. Mm-hmm. Usually it's not that far, but it has happened a couple times. I went into the museum, the Asian Arts Museum, last month. Mm-hmm. Those are kind of special when it goes that far because that's a long trip.
Okay. How about safety? Do you guys feel very safe? I'm sure you can't get in without being announced, right? It's gated.
Yeah. There's a gate that is closed all night. I mean, literally the road. You can't bring a car into the facility unless you have the code or call the front desk. The front of the building, there's a 24/7 front desk that is right there by the front doors
with a concierge who admits everyone.
There are security cameras around that they monitor. Safety is I've never felt unsafe at all. And it's not the kind of community. It's in Fountain Grove Lodge is in kind of an upscale residential community. So there's not a lot of, I don't know if there's any crime. I'm sure there's some crime somewhere, but it's not an issue at all.
There are a number of residents who don't even lock the doors to their apartments. So
don't tell
that gives you an idea.
Don't walk around and try to open doors.
But I'm just saying. It's true.
So it sounds like they've thought of everything. And it sounds like, you moved into a great facility. Now, one question that I would have, did you do your research before making the final decision. And, my question would be, well, what happens if the company that owns this goes belly up? So that would be a concern. Did you look into that or think about that?
Well, Welltower is one of the largest and most successful of all of these sorts of companies in the world. And given that there's a ongoing waiting list in this particular facility of over 100 people, I think that facilities like this that are at risk are usually low capacity buildings that aren't meeting the nut that they need to be meeting on a monthly and yearly basis. I think that the more care that a place takes and the more they satisfy the client base and the resident base, the more new residents are waiting to come. And I think the success of this facility is a testament to not only the idea of having an LGBT friendly community, but also having a company that did it right, that built it correctly, that set up the lifestyle part of it in a way that was appealing to us. And I think that, we are all of us residents. I don't know that there's a resident who is unhappy being here, and we all are basically advocates for this place.
Sure.
We kind of have a vested interest in it and care about it.
We did do research. We looked at other venues across America, and we had a list of criteria. Great weather, a beautiful facility, amenities, gay friendly, or at least very open to gay people. And we looked at facilities in the Northeast. We looked at some in Southern California. We stayed away from certain places like Florida and a few. But we did some research, and we did look into. I mean, the good thing is, the state of California regulates CCRCs. There is some government oversight about what they can and cannot do, and what happens if they end up in a situation where they're going to go under or whatever. So I feel that there's some protection there. I think America needs to do a better job. The CCRCs probably need even more protections from a legal government standpoint,
Yeah.
in my view. But they are there. There are some that are there.
But
So we did some research.
did they allow you to check out their financials?
We did look at the Welltower is doing really well. I wish we had invested in it. So from a stock standpoint, they're doing really well, and Oakmont
As a
as
management
profitable at most of its venues. So we did look at that. But at the end of the day, I still think you kind of have to either jump or not.
And,
jump, because who knows what can happen.
Yeah. I mean, there is some level of risk always,
Right.
wherever you are,
Even if you
however
buy
you're
your own
living,
house.
however you do this,
They build a nuclear power plant next to where you
Right.
Yes.
There's always something.
Yes. So, but to say happy here, absolutely. Safe feeling, yes, absolutely. Transformational for us at this stage in our lives. It's becoming transformational for us. We feel.
We paused for a minute. We did it on the younger side, and we actually thought about that. We decided we wanted to do it at a time when we could really enjoy the freedom that comes with it, the lack of responsibility with other things. We wanted to do it at a time where we could still travel, get to know where we are.
I mean, we hop in the car and go up to the Russian River in Guerneville
Right.
or Bodega Bay, or we go to Napa. We went to the French Laundry because as East Coast guys, we'd heard about that restaurant for 30 years. So a month after we got here, Ed's niece and her fiance joined us, and we had a French Laundry meal, which was a lot of fun.
But so we made that conscious decision to be here a little earlier before we had to be here.
Right. And
It's a classic case. Everyone talks about it, and this was our experience with our parents, with my parents, is that they aged out of their ability to take care of themselves.
yeah.
And then they were miserable.
And not acknowledging it or really accepting it, which because we're all somehow immortal in our own minds.
Exactly. I'm guilty of that too, saying, no, I'm too young for that.
Yeah. But
we're the same age, actually. So.
Yeah. But the reality is that you can be independent and you there's this, is there a stigma about, oh, I'm in an old person's home? Well, I'm not, we've been together 40 years. We're not young people.
People have to realize that too.
People, I mean, and it's part of our generation, Mark, that we all think of ourselves as being 35.
Yeah,
we really do.
We do.
I mean, we're getting better health care. We are living longer. We're healthier at this age than our predecessors or our parents and grandparents were. But at the same time, there's an inexorable process that ain't going to stop.
Yeah.
And adjusting to having taken care of that sooner than later for us was a positive thing.
And the lack of responsibility of maintaining your home. And we lived in a big house that had a whole lot of needs. I mean, landscaping needs and fixing needs and just taking care of all of it.
You just come to a point where you just...
Another thing that happens, which is interesting, is that just because of the way time works, at exactly the moment, if you're living in your own home, at exactly the moment where you start to have greater needs, is almost always the time where the next group of capital improvements have to take place.
Right.
And that was this experience with my parents.
Mm-hmm.
So you're suddenly becoming less capable of dealing with a lot of issues, and suddenly you're having to redo the bathroom and then redo the kitchen, and the roof has to be replaced, and these are suddenly huge chunks of money, as well as having to navigate working with workers and things, that it becomes difficult. So we're very happy about making the earlier decision in this case.
Great. In wrapping this up, any final words of wisdom to our audience?
I think that given that we all spend our earlier lives working and saving, a lot of us, and completing careers, I think that earlier than later you should start thinking about how you want the rest of your life to play out and where that fits. And Mark, one of the reasons that we're here talking is because I used you and your website and your podcasts as a clearinghouse and just a thing to get my mind going. Some of them had nothing to do with where I would live, but just hearing the conversations kind of clicks in your mind, and you can start to make these decisions. I would say, even if you do it later than we're doing it, think about it younger than we are and start making those decisions.
Yeah.
The other thing I would add, I think it's really important, if you can get to know the community that you might put yourself into,
Mm-hmm.
would be really good. The one thing about Fountain Grove that I was concerned about, that ultimately ended up being one of its most positive features, was the community I was going to be in, the people.
Mm-hmm.
And we had an instinct from our visits that this was the right kind of environment, the right people. But having been here now for almost 9 months, it is the right people.
And the larger issue being that the external population of Santa Rosa and the surrounding towns are also welcoming.
It's the right environment.
Also right, and also great. And, Mark, I think I said to you at one point when we were going back and forth and emailing each other about stuff, and there are all of these articles every week about the 10 best places to retire. Well, they list those 10 places, and I would never live in any one of those 10 places because they always end up being cheap places with horrible health care with red governors.
Yeah.
I mean, so why is that one of the 10 best places for me to retire? It's not.
It's not.
And we have to think, as gay men, we have to think about where we will be met with the support,
Respect.
and the
respect
that we think we've earned personally.
Awesome. All right, gentlemen. Well, thank you so much
Well, thank you, Mark,
for joining us today. It was a lot of fun, even though we had a little technical issues.
Oh, well, it always happens.
But yes, thank you. And thank you for joining us today. And we'll talk soon.
Good.
Terrific.
See you later.
Bye-bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Mm-hmm.